I'm going to summer camp, baby. I'm going to jail.
I don't know. What is our online banking password?
Baby, I'm not going to yell that on the street.
Happy New Year.
You did this movie some years ago, and now it's turning into a series. How different is trying to adapt your movie?
You know, I don't know that it was, we created a kind of language and narrative that I think we really fell in love with, the style and ways in which people speak and the way that poetic verse is being used in the movie, and the specificity of Oakland and the Bay Area. Those things lifted and moved over really easily because they're almost like aesthetic conventions. And I think they're sort of inherent in the way that David and I work. And everyone who came aboard luckily had already seen the movie. And so we didn't have to pitch them ideas that were foreign or, you know, abstract. It was like, well, you remember this time in the movie we did this. Here's how we built it. Here's what we want to do more of. So in that sense, it was fairly easy. I think what was the learning curve for us was doing everything in these 30-minute bites and wrapping up something at 26 pages, 27 pages, and going, all right, well, there's that thought. Let's do the next thought. Same characters, same time period, same overall theme, but different small story. I think that was a new muscle we hadn't done yet, and was really exciting to do. It's less daunting than a movie, but it was definitely a new format to explore.
It's funny because the Bay Area, Oakland and San Francisco, there seem to be a difficult area for anyone who doesn't know the environment and everyone. I was watching the 3 episodes that they sent me, and it kind of remember The Last Black Man in San Francisco, the movie, but in a Latino way, and how every community has their problems, but everyone lives in the city. How hard is for you to do this kind of intention where you see the Latino community, but it feels like Oakland, just like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think especially this show is trying to sort of articulate something about the Bay Area that I feel is pretty, I haven't seen in many other places in the States. I think, you know, when I'm in Mexico or I'm in, you know, somewhere in Europe or some of the other countries that I've had the good fortune to spend some time in, you start to pick up these little nuances of how colorism exists there and how sort of racial and economic disparities play out, and how things are sort of segmented. This community is over here, this community is over here, this one's over here. And everyone has a different narrative over the way that their city or their country has come together. And what I think is particularly unique about the Bay Area is it's a lot of different communities and a lot of subsects of communities that all live oftentimes together or in very close proximity. So your group of friends is very racially and ethnically diverse. And even in the Latino community in the Bay, like that could mean Mexicanos, Puerto Ricans, Cubanos, like it just, you know, and then different ethnicities or different races within those groups, right? And so I think that immediately creates a very complex way for people to engage. And so I think for the show, what we tried to do was create a series of an initial cast, a starting cast, that shows the ways in which people from different racial and cultural backgrounds are just living all the time. And the conversations aren't at the beginning, but they've been being had for 20 years before the show even starts. And so they come up in these micro ways, in these little, you know, in these little like side stories, just for a joke or just for a moment, because they've been living together for so long. And I've just never seen that in a television show before.
And you have this also between the idea of the community and the races. You have also the ages of difference. You have Helen Hunt doing a mom of someone that is Latina, and you have these other characters running around. Is it hard for you to imagine the characters that are not your age and also are not your race? Because in the end, you, as you said, you have been living this kind of feelings when you are on the Bay. But how hard is that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think all writers who are writing fictional characters are always sort of stepping some degree of separation outside of themselves to fill out the world that they're writing. I think what it requires is a certain level of self-awareness about how far you can go outside of yourself before you start to lose perspective, or just wander into the unknown in a way that you're just guessing. And so a lot of times what we're doing is, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about television, is you have a writer's room that you can populate with people that have really close proximity or direct relationships to all of the kinds of characters that you're writing. And that helps fill in the blanks and make sure that it remains human. I think the biggest challenge was when you get a big age gap. You know, that tends to throw it the furthest, because when you're talking about the difference between someone who's 30 years old and somebody who's 50 or 60, we're talking about a massive lifestyle generational difference in perspective, opinion, lived experience, all that, at a period when you weren't even alive. And so that tends to feel like the biggest gap. But luckily, Helen was really involved in crafting who Rainey is. And so I think she took a lot of ownership over that character and filled in a lot of the blanks for us and asked big, challenging questions about the script to make sure that it felt like an honest portrayal. Yeah.
Let's turn